Welcome to week 2, students. Congratulations on making it through the first week. I know that generally the first week can always feel really stressful because you're trying to figure out how the course works and you're trying to get your hands on the books. So kudos to you all for making it through. That said, as we are progressing further into now we're going to start textbook reading this week, but also we're going to start really kind of getting hard and heavy with the description. As you know, if you've read the syllabus, which you all have, the first essay that you will be writing in this class is going to be the description essay, and it will be due next week, which is a really fast deadline. So this week we're not only going to be reading things in service to the description essay, but we're also going to be writing things in service to the description essay. That said, let's take a look at the to-do list for the week. Just everything coming up. Remember that every single week I'm going to post a small list like this, and this is going to tell you exactly what you should do in the likely order that you should do it in. So this week I'm going to have you read Gary Soto's The Jacket, which is a short essay. It is a description essay, and I will refer to it a lot in this particular class. So for access to that, all you have to do is just click right here on the blue link, and it should take you to The Jacket, which we'll look at in just a minute. You have some textbook reading, so hopefully you got your textbooks. If not, you'll be heading to the library then to check them out. But you do have textbook reading, and I will always strongly suggest to read and take notes on that. In fact, I'm going to show you a little bit of how to do that in today's video. I also want you to watch this lecture, which you're already doing, but if you aren't taking notes already, I would pause this video right now, run into the next room or to your book bag and grab a notebook and a writing utensil, and I would jot down some of these big ideas here. Our brains are really busy with lots of information all of the time, and it's really easy to forget the information that you are receiving, whether you're reading, whether you're watching something. If you're like me, you're constantly reading, watching things, just always in motion. My brain never really has downtime, and so the things that are really important that I have to keep track of, I write down, and it helps me. What it does is it helps to commit to memory that the very thing that I wrote down. So I will be stressing that pretty hard and heavy as well. Same thing for those of you who hate textbook reading. Writing is going to help you. So if you're taking notes while you're reading that stuff, it's going to help you remember it. You're going to read through the description essay assignment so that way you understand what you will be working on for this description essay. You have a quiz to take by Wednesday. You have a discussion board post by Thursday and response to 2 classmates' discussion boards by Saturday. You also have an assignment this week, and this is the very last bullet point right here, and you're going to write an outline for your description essay. So I am having you do some pre-writing in service to that essay for next week. So that way you are not just going cold turkey and writing an essay in that very in the very third week of class. If you'll remember from my syllabus and when I was doing the orientation, I mentioned that we were going to be doing a lot of pre-writing in service to the final draft of writing. So, all right, without further ado, let's take a look at the description essay assignment and what that looks like. So you are going to write a descriptive essay in which you convey to your reader in vivid and concrete details an autobiographical event. So I want you to select one of the following topics. So you have your choice of these 3 topics right here, okay? So, like Gary Soto in The Jacket, you can describe an item that defines you for a period of time. This could be an item that described you that you really loved or something that you hated. So I've had students write about bad haircuts or a fedora that one student wore all of middle school, or a cast, or braces or glasses. One year I had a student write a really great essay about a pair of shoes, and it wasn't a pair of shoes actually that he loved. They were really, really cheap, awful shoes that his mom made him wear, and he just felt like he was wearing, big giant boats for shoes. So that's your first choice. 2, you could write, like Annie Diller does, and that's an essay we'll get to next week, about a thrilling or an exciting moment while you were playing as a kid. So in the essay, An American Childhood, Annie Dillard recalls playing, what do you call it? They're throwing snowballs, so I don't know what kind of a game that is, but basically cars would drive by and the kids would line up behind a hill and they would hurl these snowballs at the car. And on this one particular day in the essay, a car stops after a snowball hits it. And so if you have a moment like that in childhood that was kind of exciting or thrilling or maybe even kind of dangerous, you can certainly tell that particular story. And then choice 3, it says, like Alma in the Book of Unknown Americans, which we haven't started yet, but we're going to start soon. I want you to describe a time when you were lost and overwhelmed by how to navigate your way around. So in the book, Alma immigrates to the United States, and she decides to take the bus one day, the public transportation, and she's trying to maneuver around the city. And she quickly realizes that not only does she not know her way around, she doesn't speak English, and she can't ask anyone for help. And she is all of a sudden so terrified of never ever making it back to her family, particularly her daughter. So you could write about a time like this. This could be a time maybe when you traveled to somewhere new and you got lost, or perhaps you moved somewhere new and you were completely unfamiliar with your surroundings and or the language. So those are your 3 topics. If you would like to write about something other than that, you do have to get my approval for another topic. Other than that, it should be one of the 3 above. So essay checklist. And that just means that these are the things you have to have in your essay. You do have to have a title that best represents the essays. No boring or lame titles. I am a very strong believer of no lame writing at all, no boring writing ever. 2, a clear context that creates a well-told story. 3, logical organization. Consistent point of view and consistent tense. So I'm going to strongly recommend for all of you first person point of view and past tense. You do need to have lots and lots and lots of concrete details that are vivid and necessary. And I put this one in bold because many of my 475 students really underestimate this essay in that what I'm looking for. And so I would put tons of emphasis on the fact that I really want you to write very, very vividly here. So pull in all those sensory details that we talked about last week. So sound and smell and touch and taste, all of those kinds of things should be in your essay in order to help convey those memories that you had. You want paragraphs that are well developed with those concrete details, and you want those paragraphs to build on each other as the essay moves along. You want a conclusion that does not summarize the experience, right? But you want a conclusion that provides a thoughtful reflection. Essentially, in that conclusion, I want to know, why are you telling us the story? What is the point here? Grammar and spelling errors should be eliminated by the final draft, and this essay should be 2.5 pages at minimum. If your essay is shorter than the 2.5 pages, that means you are going to get a 69 or below for not meeting that minimum page requirement. So if you're thinking to yourself, wait, what's a half page, right? That means the first 2 pages should be full from top to bottom, right? And on that 3rd page, the essay should make it at least all the way down to the middle of that page. Okay, so if you have questions on that, be sure you let me know. I find that for most students, because this is a personal essay, they're usually able to write the 2.5 pages, 3 pages with no problem. If you tend to be a sort of long-winded writer, let me just caution you right now. I do not want any essays over 4 pages for this particular assignment. I'd rather you spend your time and energy really concentrating on those concrete details. Be sure you use standard MLA formatting, double spacing, 1-inch margins, and 12-point Times New Roman font. If you don't have your textbook in front of you, pause this video and go get your textbook. I just want to show you a quick way to take notes, but also I want you to make sure that you understand some pages in your textbook that I don't want you to read. So if you would flip over to page 23, if you'll notice on your assignment, I've asked you to read the first part of steps from page 3 to page 23. On page 23, I want you to stop before it says practicing what you've learned. So, although it's a good idea to practice what you've learned, and if you certainly do want more practice, you can follow these exercises in the book, but I am generally not going to ask you to read through those and or practice those. Sometimes I take those exercises that they give you at the end of each section and I put them up on your discussion board. So I'm already working those ways in to practice the skills that they are giving you. Okay? So I want you to take notes while you read. It's going to help your brain to sort of stay active. And again, if you've ever had trouble with reading and recalling what you've read, I am talking to you especially. So reading is not a passive activity. So a lot of times students think that they can just move their eyes over words and that they're somehow going to get the meaning of those words into their head. And that's not actually what happens. You have to have thoughts while you're reading about the reading if you want those ideas to stick in your head. Okay, so you cannot just allow your eyes to move over the words and understand everything. You actually have to engage your mind while you're reading. And one of the best ways to do that is to take notes while you're reading. So this is, if you want to change the way that you maybe approach particularly textbook reading, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This will make you an academic baller, if you will, is taking these kind of notes while you're reading. Textbook reading in general, I'll be honest with you guys, it's difficult. There aren't a lot of textbooks out there that are engaging or funny. A lot of times their function is just to give you information. And you have to find ways, A, to get that information to your head, but B, how do you recall that information? And so this is a struggle that a lot of students have. And those students who are really successful in college generally have some kind of technique that they do while they're reading. They don't just open the book, read through the material, and close it and know everything. So here's just one strategy I'm going to show you today. If you have experience with doing Cornell notes, go ahead and do that while you're reading. Some other students do two-column method. So what I'm going to show you today is just what I do sometimes when I am reading. So for instance, I'm just going to start on page 3. I flip back over in my book. And I make sure that at the top of my paper here, I'm going to write chapter 1 pre-writing, and I usually write the page numbers down, so in case I have to refer to it later. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly flip through these pages, and you'll see that I've already done this. And I've just written out the headers. So the first header says, getting started or soup can labels can be fascinating, right? I might even write page 3 right there. Right? And then if I flip over, I see another header in dark blue, and it says selecting a subject. Then if I flip again, I see on page 7, finding your essays, purpose and focus. And then here I see on page 8, pump primer techniques. So again, I've just written all those down. I've bolded them because I know that they're headers. And what I'll typically do is within each section, I'll see if there's any subheaders. So in our book, sometimes these subheaders can be a lighter blue color or orange. And so you'll see right here on page 4, actually, it says visualizing the process, pre-writing. So I'll write that down there. Underneath selecting a subject on page 5, there's a start early. And that is in orange. Same thing with find your best space. So again, you can just kind of see what I'm doing in terms of just labeling these. Now, what I would do, if I go right back up to here, is I would actually now read through page 3, all of page 3, and I might stop along the way to write down anything that I think might be useful information. So, and in this case, I'm kind of typing it as I go here, but I am essentially looking for big ideas. What is the book trying to get across to me? Why is it telling me that soup can labels can be fascinating? Is that their way of making a joke? Is that their way of actually telling me something I should know for a possible quiz, right? So every couple of sentences, I'm going to stop and think about whether or not I should write down something here. So for me, if I were to read through this, so I'm just fast forwarding in time. I've read through page 3 here, right? And what I've noticed is that there's actually some information that comes before we get to that little chart that says visualizing the process. And what I'm just going to kind of summarize here is what the book was just telling me, that getting started with writing is really hard. And again, that's something you think right now when you're reading it that you might remember, but it's likely that you might not, right? By the time you go to, take a quiz or recall this in May, right? You might not remember that one little tiny thing. Essentially, what the writer is getting at with the soup can labels is that some writers, when they go to write, actually find reason to do anything else other than write. They will clean their rooms, they'll clean the house, they'll read soup can labels. So it was kind of the textbooks trying to be funny here a little bit and saying that soup can labels can be fascinating. So I actually might write that down for myself, right? Getting started with writing is really hard. Many writers find ways to distract themselves instead of writing. So again, I'm just kind of writing that down as a way to take notes for myself. I want you to note here, right? This probably is you as well. I think this is fairly common among most people, their reaction to writing something. Our brains don't actually really want to work hard. So we will try to procrastinate and find any reason to come up with to not sit down and actually do the work. That said, this is where the idea of writer's block comes from. Somebody actually mentioned writer's block on the discussion board this week, and I wanted to touch on that because I don't believe that there is such thing as writer's block. I believe there is power in your brain, and your brain wants to shut down your thought processes because sometimes it's just too hard to think through those things. And so sometimes our brains freeze up and we think, oh my gosh, I can't write anything. I don't know what to write. I don't know how to get started. However, there are some real techniques that you can use out there, and you're going to learn about them in reading chapter 1 here, how to get past those writer's block. And a lot of that is these pump primer techniques, which you'll note we'll get to in just a little bit, right? There is this idea of warming up your brain for writing. So make sure, again, that you're paying attention to that. Let's see. So again, as you go through this, I'm not going to do the whole chapter because I want you to practice and do it on your own, but I'm just kind of showing you a technique here that I would try and start with. This is only week 2 of this semester, so come out swinging and try to do a really thorough job of taking notes while you're reading. All right, let me close that, and let's go back here for a second. So with the outline, I do want to talk about that. So with your outline, this is not going to be due until Saturday of this week. I am asking you to pick a topic from the description essay assignment, okay? Once you pick a topic, I strongly recommend doing one of those pump primer techniques. So I prefer actually free writing for 10 minutes or so. So I just set my clock for 10 minutes and try to write everything I can remember about that topic, or everything I think I know of. And if I run out of things, I might jump to asking myself questions to try to jog my memory. But once you have that idea of what you're going to write for your description essay, I want you to put that into an outline form. So your outline is going to be a formal structure, and you can find examples of these and more information about that on pages 49 through 51 of your book. So what your outline should have is, of course, the headers, right? I want it all to be formatted correctly. Creative title, an introduction. Notice here that I'm actually asking you to write out the full introduction, right? Or at least the first 3 to 4 sentences here. For me, as someone who is trying to help and guide you through this essay, this is one of the best determiners of the direction that your essay is headed in. So I can give you some great feedback for the essay just based on that introduction alone. For every body paragraph that you think you're going to have, you should write out a full topic sentence. Okay, so here you have 3 to 4 sentences. For each one of those Roman numerals under that top introduction, you're going to have a full sentence, right? So the main idea of each paragraph. Under each topic, I want 3 very specific concrete details. So concrete details that are specific to that particular body paragraph. And what that means is you're not writing down sound or smell or sight. You're actually giving me just a brief list of those actual details. And I'll show you an example from a former student. And then lastly, for your conclusion, your Roman numeral under your conclusion, I want you just to answer the following questions. So you don't have to write a conclusion here. It's just kind of a pre-conclusion writing. So just answer this. What is significant about this event or person or place to you? Why is it significant? And what do you want your readers to take away when they are done reading your essay? So you are going to do your outline and upload it here. And this is not a place where everyone can see that outline. This goes directly to me, and then I give you points based on that. But again, just to show you, so just kidding. Let me move that over here a little bit. Again, this was a real outline, so it's not perfect. You'll see some misspellings in here. There's actually some funky kind of tenses happening. Notice the MLA header here, right? You would write your full name. You would write Professor Tlacro, me, our class, and then you would write the date in the international date format. Notice that there's no extra space between the date and the title of the essay here, or the outline in this case, right? And notice here that the outline title is not underlined, it's not bolded. So it is capitalized correctly, right? But it's nice and centered on this page, okay? So again, I'm just sort of pointing out here, notice that he has his introduction already written out there, and for his body paragraphs, he has a full sentence here, and then he's listed 3 concrete details here. Again, here's a full sentence, 3 concrete details here. Okay, so this is exactly how I want you to format your essay or your outline as well. And if you have questions on that, certainly let me know. But be sure that you've met all of these requirements as well. Okay? So be sure this week that you get your readings done first. Take your quiz by Wednesday, post to the discussion board by Thursday, and respond to 2 classmates by Saturday, and also your outline by Saturday. I'm certainly here to help you guys. I will be hosting another live chat this week. I do encourage all of you to show up if you can. Remember that live chats are not worth points or anything. You basically just show up and you click chat over here on the toolbar, and we just type back and forth. And so it's real-time answers to your questions or your problems. Sometimes we discuss the readings. So be sure that you, if you can, like I said, show up. This really makes a difference for a lot of students in terms of how to respond sometimes to the essay or the questions, or discussing some of the readings and understanding what's important about some of those readings. I do have office hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so those of you who do already attend campus, the Rancho campus, you're always welcome to stop by my office during those times. Or certainly email me. I will see you all on the discussion board. Have a good second week. Bye.